Okay, it looks like we got a good working live stream. And uh, funny weather today. Well, my name's Moshe, and I'm coming to you from Israel in the Galilee while Israel's on its highest level of alert. We're at the highest level it can go because we're expecting trouble from Iran. And Iran has been threatening America, saying that if they strike Iran, they're going to hit the U.S. bases in the area, which America has about 58,000 military. Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia. Very, very few are in Israel, and there's like next to nothing or nothing in Egypt, and there's nothing in Lebanon, and there's some in Iraq and Syria. Uh, they're not in Oman, and of course, they're not in Iran. Okay, so there's a big degree of vulnerability there, and they're also saying if the U.S. hits um Iran, they're going to also hit Israel. Then, in other statements from other people in the Iranian government, officials, high ranking, they're saying that these protesters are backed by Israel and America, which I wholeheartedly believe. I would say that's 99% true. 99.99 maybe. I don't know everything, so maybe it's not true. And they're going to, in other words, they were saying we're going to get revenge against Israel and America. We have found out, this is information somehow is old, that at least 5 to 6,000 people in Tehran, only the capital, have been killed. The IRGC did manage to take some cities back from the protesters, and that reversed, and the protesters took it back from the IRGC. That's a military arm of the Iranian government. They have killed at least one, I think more, high ranking IRGC officials. There's massive amounts of bodies around there. What the IRGC is doing is they're going up to rooftops where the protesters are with sniper rifles, and they're just shooting. Hey, there's one, boom, there's another, boom. They've even gotten people, they got a woman that was a nurse going home from work, walking where the protesters were. They killed her, and they killed a family of a man, his wife, and some children who had nothing to do with the protests. So they're butchering, okay? And the protesters are still hanging in there. And this son of the Shah is still driving them on with announcements that he's going to come over there soon. Listen, they need a leader, and they got a leader, but this is a lousy leader. I mean, not that he's going to be a very bad leader for Iran compared to what they've had. And of course, he'll be a puppet of Trump, but he he's not helping. He's not taking control or anything like that. Hold on a second. Becca, are you here?
Yeah.
I got this short. I think I got the shorts. Hold on, from you know who? Yeah,
What?
what they're out of stock of.
Oh.
Let me give it to you. Hold on, I want to make sure that's what I got. Yeah, here it is. You want it?
It wouldn't take such keeping long to fill the order.
If they shorted out that one container of soup powder, just let them give me any other one. I'm running very low. Okay, so
That's the only thing they're out of.
okay.
Not confirmed.
Oh, wait a second, guys.
Okay.
All right. Where is it?
Hang on. Okay.
I can't. Okay, thank you. Um, so they're out there today. It's probably daylight by now in Iran, and they're probably forward of us. America's behind us. They're probably, I don't know, 2 hours forward, 3 hours at most, or something like that. Maybe an hour. I don't know. So it depends where in Iran, I guess. They're at it again. The protesters and the Iranian killing them. They've arrested hundreds of people, which means they are going to take them to the prisons, which you could probably call a dungeon, and they're going to use brutal means of interrogation. And try to find out who other ringleaders are and go shoot them dead and, at their house or arrest them or whatever. So it's on full. What Trump's goal is here is to get rid of the mullahs without a war. It's a good idea if you could do it. Of course, Satan, with all the tossed salad flying around, is trying to keep control of his countries without wars. Because when you have wars, the reality is you never know what's going to happen. Trump, I don't think you're going to see Trump move any aircraft carriers or naval vessels here. So we're going to dissect this, show you what the attack will look like, probably, and in terms of the timing of the attack, any minute. Okay. Today's Monday in Israel. I would be very surprised that Wednesday comes around and we haven't attacked yet. Okay. Because they're slaughtering the protesters. What Iran is trying to do is kill enough protesters where they give it up and they say, oh, this isn't working. Trump didn't do anything. Let's go home. Right? And Trump has to attack Iran to try to stop them before the protesters give up and lose momentum. You see the problem? So they're both in a rush. Iran's in complete open 100% defiance of everything Trump said. So there's really very little point in believing that you're going to have any negotiations here. This is going to be an example of carry a big stick and walk loudly. Okay? And we'll get into all this with you. Let me get into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream, because that usually helps. I don't want to be sitting here talking to myself all morning. We're going to go very fast on this and make sure we got a live stream, because that usually helps. I don't want to be sitting here talking to myself all morning. Now I'm going to have to take care of this for a minute.
Anything I need to be here?
Hello? Hello? I don't know what happened with that.
All right. Bill's in the bedroom.
Did you ever swap the card out?
No, Ken, I didn't.
Okay.
Bill's in the bedroom. It wasn't much. It was very little this time. Bill's in the bedroom, walked in, Mommy's in the house.
Oh, they're both in. Okay. All right. We're going to go very fast on this and make sure we...
7 viewers and that.
We're going to go very fast on this and make sure we...
7 viewers and that.
All right, let's see if I can. Oh gosh, ever since they changed this is so annoying. Okay. All right, it looks like we're good to go. Let me see what I can do with the sound. Okay. All right. Being a Bible believing site, Old and New Testament, we're going to do some praise. Yes, I'm going to go through the scriptures where the destruction of Iran is, which is in Jeremiah 49. And it also, in my opinion, believes would include Iraq. And remember, about 48 hours or 72 hours ago, a B 2 bomber plane was seen flying, I guess, low over Iraq. And why would that be? We'll get into it. Okay, so there is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. The first part of this that I want to tell you that really gets me troubled is these idiot mullahs. Oh, I didn't give you the. Okay, today's Monday, and it's January 12th, 8:39 in the morning. Okay. The thing is, I don't like the fact that Trump's going to topple the apple cart there. See, Trump doesn't believe in the Bible or Bible prophecy. Come on. Trump is trying to get his hands on Iranian oil. This is what he wants, not what he gets. He's using the Shah's son because the people seem to be buying into it. The Shah wasn't, he was not, fearing God or a godly man or anything like that. He was 100% a Satan, but he was better for the people than what they're used to, you know. It's like he's like instead of getting bubonic plague, you get a case of the flu. He's no good, but he wasn't as bad as the others. So this new guy is already snuggling up to Israel. He's saying, well, we don't want to enter into an Abrahamic accord with Israel. We want to enter into a Cyrus accord because we want to restore relationships with Israel to be really good the way they used to be. Yeah, he wants weapons from Israel. Well, he probably wants to make friends with Israel and the United States. I think he sincerely wants to. But I don't think it's going to happen. And he's not in Israel now. He's not in Iran now. I think he's in America. Maybe he's in France or something like that. But wherever, he probably got Trump's protecting him. It's going to be real hard to knock this guy off because Trump's using him not like a pawn, but like a queen in a chess game. So, what happens? Trump got to attack. Attack what? The trains, the ports, the piers, the oil refineries, Khomeini's bunker. What does he attack? Well, it's not hard to understand this. What is Trump's immediate goal? Easy. He's telling you. He wants the protesters to be able to run around protesting in Iran without getting killed or beaten up or put in jail or clubbed and so forth, right? Why? Because they're taking over the country. And they're going to go for the Shah's son, and they're going to try to turn the clock back the way things were, which is never going to happen, and have a nice life and so forth, okay? Now, when the Shah was around, they were not attacking Israel or anything like that, you know? They were, going to the movies, listening to them, watching European American movies dubbed into Farsi. They had music, they were getting Tom Jones and the Rolling Stones or whatever, right? Buying cars. The women were going to beaches in bikinis, which is not anything I'm advocating. And, they had booze and cigarettes and stuff like that. Okay. They had a pretty high crime rate there, too. I knew a guy who told me when they would take their Mercedes into the city, when they were living in Iran before the revolution, he was a young guy. His sister would get out and take the hubcaps off the Mercedes and lock them in the trunk. That reminds me of Mexico City. I was there some years ago, and I was from a very distant family and driving around, and we were looking for parking, and he says, "No, you got to put the car in someplace. You can't leave it on the street." Great place, huh? People used to freely go to Mexico from America, even in the very early 1960s. They didn't have the cartels down there because Americans were not consuming a great deal of drugs. The first drugs that came on were marijuana in a big way in the, probably 66, 67. It was pretty big. They were really running with the drugs. And it never stopped. The drugs just changed. Okay, so Trump's idea, let's stop them killing the protesters. The protesters are going to keep growing, and they're going to get more and more government buildings burned, destroyed, and destroy all the signs of the government. Eventually, they'll destroy the banks. That'll be the end of the currency, which is worthless. When they're worthless, one U.S. dollar, which is weak right now, buys, the last time I checked, 1.45 million Iranian rials. So you're getting, you're a millionaire. You're not just a millionaire with $1 in your pocket in Iran. You're a millionaire and a half. Okay? people have had it. They're burning the mosques, which is good too, because they're showing the Muslims this is not a Muslim state, and they're showing the Muslims this is not Sharia law, and they're showing the Muslims you don't run things. If the Muslims want to run around wearing hijabs in 90-degree weather, they're welcome to do it. But there's not going to be any morality patrols of police or anything like that telling the women you can't go out of the house by yourself, you got to wear these kind of clothes. If they try doing that under the Shah's son, the Muslims will go to jail. All right. So the way you take the place over softly without ruining the oil refineries and the oil storage tanks and the ports and the piers is you get the IRGC, who are the ones persecuting the protesters, right? Okay. How do you get the IRGC? Well, they're not living 200-300 feet under rock. They got bases and they got buildings that you might be able to call bunkers, like, maybe even 1 foot thick concrete or something. So a heavy machine gun bullet won't go through, and they'll have some resistance to mortar or even artillery or something. But for being a domestic base inside Iran, they don't need even that. They can get by with 4 or 6 inches of concrete, which will deflect bullets. Are the bases a secret? No. So what do? Well, this depends on how aggressive Trump wants to go initially. He's probably going to have to blow some of these bases up as a warning. Is he going to blow it up with them in it? Well, there's always going to be some in it. While some of them are sleeping during the day, the others are out getting the protesters. Then the ones sleeping by the day go out at night, and the other ones go to sleep. So you're always going to have somebody in there. And Trump probably figures the IRGC isn't going to get too mad about that. Nor will the world at large, because they're soldiers and they're killing civilians. So Trump will probably bomb their bases. Now, the Iranians don't have good air defenses. Forget that, okay? They don't have any good air defenses. Like the UK or Israel or America or, something like that. They got junk. Russian junk, okay? But it's still dangerous. And you got to watch yourself with it, okay? So what they're likely going to use is B-2 bombers. The B-2 bomber is huge. It holds mountains of ordnance, okay? It is heavy-duty stealth. They can't find it and shoot it down, okay? And remember, we saw one of these the other day 2-3 days ago flying over Iraq. And that's part in the Bible. There's no Iran being used in this prophecy. It's being called Elam, E-L-A-M. And it includes Iraq, we think. So, Iraq is kind of a puppet of Iran, and they will likely support Iran. Now, what would they do if they likely support Iran? Well, they're very well positioned. They're on the other side of the Persian Gulf to attack American military bases that are in Iraq, that are in Syria next door to Iraq, and very nearby, you know, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, you know. And the other one that'll help will be Yemen. They would most likely attack Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has already been fighting in Yemen with aircraft and missiles. And there's some sort of a rebellion going on there where the UAE is trying to promote some militia to take over, and the Saudis don't like that, and they're attacking the weapons that the UAE is giving to this militia. So America understands that this thing with Iran is going to get complicated pronto, okay? Iran has a lot of hypersonic fast movers, right? Ballistic long-range missiles. They used them on Israel in June, and 17% of these missiles penetrated our defenses, which at the time included the Iron Dome, Arrow 2, David Sling, and THAAD systems we had from America. 4 layers, 17% came through. Now we have a 5th layer, Iron Beam, the laser system. Just came into deployment on the 29th of December. Do you see a timing coincidence here? Okay, how many do we have in action? Nobody knows yet. If there's an attack by Iran, I imagine we're going to find out pretty quick, because they're going to be used all over the country, if we got that many. I don't know. Some of them could be more powerful and work on hypersonic. Others are just pretty much for drones, artillery, mortars, and crappy short-range missiles that don't go fast. Okay? The system can be installed on boats, on moving vehicles, and stationary. Now, of course, there is a consideration that I was here right after Saddam Hussein attacked us in the 90s, not while it was going on, right after. And, you know, a lot of us in Israel talk to ourselves, not so much like what I'm doing, that I don't want to pick the right word, but with the subject matter of the conversation is a Muslim terrorist missile hits the Dome of the Rock. Okay. Now, I'm not telling you should pray for that. Why would I say a thing like that? But we talk about it a lot. Now, the Palestinians are mad at Iran. The ones in Gaza. And I think Hezbollah also. Why? because all the international attention has shifted to Iran, who is being caught as a dirty dog, killing their civilians who want to get rid of these evil people ruining their lives. So nobody's sitting there in the newspapers screaming about the plight of the Palestinians. Now, since this has been going on in Iran, we've been attacking in Lebanon heavily. Yesterday were very heavy attacks. We're hitting all sorts of stuff. Command centers, operating posts, even if they're in residences, weapons, weapon storage, targeted assassinations. We've been inside Lebanon on the ground. And the Lebanese government are keeping their mouths shut. They are not about to control Hezbollah. And now they see Trump is playing hardball with people. Forget the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump's looking for the oil prize. They don't want to start up with Trump. The fact that Hezbollah has been imported from Lebanon and possibly Syria and even not Iraq, maybe in Iraq, I don't know, into Iran to shoot the civilians because it would be hard on the Iranian IRGC to gun down their own people. So they use foreigners, and some of the foreigners they use the Hezbollah. This is going very bad for Iran. Is it possible that this whole thing stops? Yeah. How? Well, Iran would have to make a deal with the protesters to get them to stop. And I don't know what that deal would be other than get rid of Sharia law and some other things. Do I think that there's a chance that Iran's going to make a deal like that with the protesters? I don't know, zero. They're not going to do it. The terms are going to be painful for Iran, and, they're not going to go for it. The terms are going to be end the nuclear site, make friends with America, end Sharia law, stop supporting the terrorist groups, and we want new elections right away. And, Trump would love it, but they're not going to go for it. I think before this is over, they're not only going to attack American bases, they're going to attack Israel, they're going to attack the OPEC countries in the Middle East, hit their ports and piers where they move the oil in and out, and hit the refineries, or just shut the Persian Gulf, or both. And Yemen will get into the fight. When I say Yemen, I mean the Houthis. Netanyahu hasn't taken advantage of this yet and started hitting the Gaza people heavily. One reason is he doesn't want to see Iran attack Israel and say this is because of what you're doing in Gaza. Because if he attacks Israel because of what America is doing, it puts Trump in the jackpot and has to do something about that also. You see the difference? Okay. Now, Trump has a history of backing out many times and delaying, but you see, with Venezuela, you can delay. But they're now killing thousands and thousands of people. They probably killed 10 to 20,000 already. So there's no delay anymore. I mean, you can futz around for a day or two or three, something like that, but that's about it. You can't sit there and say, well, we'll be going in around Easter. You can't do that. The more they wait, there's nothing that, Iran will crush the protests, and then what? See, protesters take the place of boots on the ground. In other words, it takes the place of America putting Marines and Army on the ground with tanks and jeeps and guns, and that. He's got the protesters. He doesn't need that now. The Navy's not relevant in this matter because anything that Trump could do with the Navy, he could do with just aircraft. Now, there are some Navy ships around, but I don't think they're that many. They might use one or two or three Navy ships to try to take down missiles hitting allies. They may try that, but I don't think so. I don't know what they're going to do about that. I'm sure that they're talking with Israel. Some big shot was here on Saturday, and the Israeli generals met with him on the Sabbath, so something big happened then. They're concerned with Israel. So there's Americans hitting, coming around from the Pentagon. You're talking, I'm sure, at least the light general, a 1-star or a 2-star. You're probably talking 2 and 3-star generals, maybe 4-star, going around and visiting Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and preparing them. That's probably a lot of the delay. Now, can Trump not attack Iran and stop Iran from killing that? Nah. These are civilians. What's he going to do to, in World War II, what America did, I think in France and possibly Germany, Austria, and some other countries, is they built this pistol. It was made out of sheet metal, bent and everything else, like a toy cap gun. But the sheet metal was rather thick, and it was a semi-automatic pistol that was not reloadable. And it had 5 or 6, something like that, rounds of 45 ACP ammo. And it had about a 3-inch barrel. And it was metal grips, and it just made like out of beer can, but it worked. And they parachuted cases of these things down. What was in a case? 50, 100, case after case of them. Loaded the country up with this, right? Because Nazi Germany had control of the government of these countries, and now the resistance and the people would have these guns. Now, they were really not designed to go out and take 75-foot shots with They were designed for work of probably 5 or 6 feet at maximum. In other words, you'd stick it right up in front of somebody and start pulling the trigger. In the 1950s, when you watch the cop shows and the Wild West shows, when somebody got hit once with a pistol bullet, they fell down and died. Well, I don't care what your pistol bullet is, you're not going to get results like that with any degree of certainty. No, I mean, it happens, but it's not. If you get a shot in the head, up here, the cranium, it's over for them. If you get a shot in the upper vertebrae, it's over for them. If you get a shot in the neck, probably over for them. If you get a shot in the heart, probably over for them. That's about it. All the other stuff is going to, they can keep fighting typically. And people don't go boom and slam down when you shoot them, If you shoot them in the head or something, they might collapse. But for every force, there's an equal and opposite force. So if you picked your pistol up and you went like this and locked your elbows, which I don't do that. I go like this, the Jeff Cooper type, but there are people that make a triangle and lock it. All right, so if you lock your elbows and then you pull the trigger and it threw you back 5 feet, how could that be? You wouldn't want to shoot anything like that. An elephant rifle might do that. So they're not going to go 5 feet either. They might fall down and just sink down, So Trump could parachute down, 250,000, 500,000 guns like that. Do I think he'll do it? No. You see, it doesn't matter if the IRGC confiscates those guns that you parachuted in, because they got plenty of guns anyway. It doesn't help them. But when you give it to the people, it helps them. Now, he doesn't need to use those guns like in World War II. What they would use is the civilians that are in the underground would walk down the streets of an occupied country or city or state or whatever. And the Nazis were there. They'd see a soldier or two soldiers, they'd walk up on them, maybe two of them, and they'd pull their gun out. When they got right close to them, it'd just go boom, boom, 2 shots probably each. And the soldiers would be out. And then they had the soldiers' guns. They had the soldiers' ammo. They'd probably take his ID card for counterfeiting. And to confuse, depends how much time they had. They might have just walked up and go boom, boom, and then they started running and they run around a corner and there's a motorcycle or a car that picks them up and gets them the heck out of there, and they go to a hiding place for a few weeks, or a few days or whatever. What would that do to help the Iranians? Well, it would use it on the police and the soldiers trying to break it up. What about the snipers on the rooftops? Well, that's a problem. Now, if these IRGC murderers are all coming from foreign countries, Iraq sent police and soldiers over there, and Hezbollah, killing the regular IRGC is not going to put any any pressure on them. But it'll put pressure on the IRGC to tell the government to knock this stuff off, which the government won't do. So you could be cultivating a overthrow of the government by the IRGC. The Iranian government's position on the IRGC getting bombed and killed is, hey, they got their 70 virgins. Well, the whole funerals, call them martyrs, dress them up, tie ribbons around them, bury them, all that crap, right? It's not going to do well. So the main thrust is going to be your B-2 bomber, because they're not going to take it down with missiles. It can go up to 50,000 feet. Iran having an anti-aircraft missile is going to go 50,000 feet. Oh, please. That's like Darth Vader, Now, here comes the problems that Trump is trying to work out with the Pentagon. What does Iran do? They can't do anything to the B-2 bombers. They know they got bombed, but they don't know what the heck happened. The B-2 bombers are not going to fly at low altitude where they could be visually seen and get a lock and then destroyed. They're not going to do that. So they could start hitting American bases to say America's attacking us. We'll attack America. What will Trump do when that happens? Well, that's what they're talking about. The thing, I'm sorry to say this about Trump, but the thing he might do is say, we hit you, Iran. Learn from this lesson. Stop killing the protesters and more to come. And ignore the fact that the bases were hit. And then Iran will say, oh, we're going to hit your bases worse. We're going to hit the other oil-producing countries in the Middle East and shut oil off and all that. Close the Persian Gulf, all kinds of things. Iran is well aware of the fact that if they don't stop the protesters, they're going to lose the country. They could wind up dead. There's even rumors, I don't think they're true, flying around that Khomeini got killed. See, they're starting those rumors. It's a propaganda tactic, If you do that enough, it forces Khomeini to make a live appearance. And that's a good thing, because Netanyahu would love to destroy Khomeini. So if he's making live appearances, you might be able to find out where he is. I think Trump would get behind that. How do you know that Iran won't blow their oil refineries up if they have to leave the country? So Trump doesn't get it. You don't know that. I would say they probably have that set up. Now, Bashar Assad didn't blow the oil up when he left the country, so he might not do that. For the sake of the Muslims living there, he may not do that. I don't know. Now, if Iran retaliates, which I would say at least 95% chance they will, um, the next move looks like this. Israel with American refueling tankers and our own refueling tankers is going to deploy between 70 and 100 jets. They're going to be F-15s and F-35s and F-16s. They're going to go in and they're going to attack the radar and the anti-aircraft systems that Iran has, which are Russian F-300, maybe F-400. Israel has glide bombs. Glide bombs go and hit their target from a high altitude. At a distance of 40 to 50, sometimes 60 miles even, but 40, 50 miles is about right. They don't even have to be over Iranian airspace sometimes to get the targets. But what they'll use to hit the Iranian aircraft radar is going to be what we call the Delilah. It's essentially a cruise missile that locks onto the radar beam, gets GPS coordinates, and goes for it. It's a smart weapon. It flies low. It's hard to track, hard to pick up. It's got electronic countermeasures and stuff like that, and it blows up the radar. The missile launcher themselves without the radar isn't a big problem, but it'll blow that up too. And then what? Well, then the Iranian defenses for aircraft are down, and then all sorts of stuff comes in. American and Israeli and any other countries that may help. Now, Trump's running around, believe me, trying to get other countries to join in. He's saying, look, we got thousands and thousands dead. They're killing thousands a day. And he might find a few countries that want to join in. I don't know, but we'll find out. So then after Israel starts knocking corridors, in other words, highways that are safe, aerial highways, paths in the sky that are safe from Iranian missile attacks. They don't have any kind of an aircraft that to speak of that they're going to launch that are going to engage our planes in air-to-air combat and be a threat. What would happen if they launched their planes? Their planes would blow up in the sky from missiles fired by Israel that, the Israel jet would be out of range of the Iranian weapons on their jets, and they would just get blown up that way. They wouldn't make it. They can't hold up against our pilots, not a chance. And they got a few Russian jets that are pretty new, and the guys never had them in combat before. If they want to launch them, they're just going to get blown up. I would say that the amount that get destroyed is every single one that they launch. 100%. The Israeli pilots will get all sorts of, Tom Cruise Maverick accommodations and stuff like that. Israel, as far as I know, does not hold a Top Gun school. They got one pilot school, and that's it. Maybe Trump would say, send them over to Top Gun. They have a free scholarship, and they might do that. I don't know. They might do something like that. But it would be more for, propaganda type news than any practical. The pilots would have to have a good command of the English language, including technical Air Force terms for pilots, and I don't know if they have pilots like that. They would pretty much need to have pilots where mom and dad were American and raised the kids bilingual in the house. It would have to be that deep seated. It wouldn't work if they went to college for 2 or 3 years and took English. When you're getting bank left, up, go up, he's behind you, go down. And you're getting it that fast, and you're watching your instruments. You got to really know the language, or you're not going to understand. What happens if they go in there? Well, then they got to stop what Iran is using to attack the American bases, Israel, and the other countries, which is basically a slaughter of Iran. Because we've got to get their missile cities and other locations. They got mobile missile launchers they can launch from, and they can hit Europe too. What's to say they won't start hitting Europe? They'll hit anything and everything. Why? To repel the attack. What do they want? They want them to just go away and leave Iran to deal with the protesters as they see fit. Or they would want to have some sort of negotiated settlement where they're moving into the terms of the settlement with a great deal of strength. In other words, Trump and Europe and Israel don't want any more of their missiles. And then they could negotiate something where there's no more sanctions and stuff like that. But their problem is that America is not really going to be receiving in this fight. But that's presumptively based on the fact that Iran has no sleeper agents and will not deploy them in a last-ditch effort to get America off its back. And we don't know. What's my hunch? They're going to turn a lot of sleeper agents loose in America. Are a lot of Iranian citizens going to die? Well, if I know Trump and Israel, they're going to try extremely hard to see this doesn't happen. How effective will they be? They'll be quite successful, actually, quite successful. Nobody's going to hit civilian targets. That's what Putin and Zelensky do. No, they're not going to do that. Okay? Iran hits civilian targets, but no. So what would we do? Well, there's another thing that could happen, and don't think this is crazy. All the people that serve the Satan are like children. I keep telling you that. Some of you understand it, and some need more experience, perhaps. Okay. They're like children. So they might start destroying their own cities when they see what's going on, so nobody gets the advantages of that country. And is that consistent with Bible prophecy? It is. It is. It's consistent. If I can't have it, nobody could have it. Okay, let's look at the Bible prophecy. Jeremiah 49. And remember, Jeremiah 49, what comes next? Jeremiah 50, the destruction of the daughter of Babylon. So we need to consider taking this at face value, and the destruction of Elam, Iran, could be immediately preceding the destruction of the daughter of Babylon, Trump land. All right, it's towards the end of the chapter, and it is a large chapter. Let me get the right verse. We pick it up in Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 34. The word of Jehovah that came to Jeremiah the prophet against Elam in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah. So that was how he set the time frame. Saying, thus saith Jehovah of hosts, of armies, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. Now, what does a bow do? It launches an arrow, right? Okay. Is a missile an arrow? Yeah. It's pointed, it gets propelled by a bow. But what kind of bow do they use? A missile launcher. I mean, the missile has its own fuel and stuff like that, but the missile launcher has to get it started, okay? Missiles without launchers don't work. So is that what he's talking about, what the Lord's talking about? It could be. It sure makes sense. It's eerie how much sense it makes. Their strength is not tanks, it's not ships, it's not planes, it's not bullets, it's missiles. And upon Elam will I bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven. North, south, east, west. And will scatter them toward all those winds. And the word for winds is ruach, which is also the word for spirit. So the word has dual meaning. Okay. And shall will scatter them towards all those winds, and there shall be no nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. Let's check that word outcast. That's not a normal word you use in your everyday vocabulary. You know, you go home and family says, hey, where were you? Oh, I was out being an outcast. Or, you know, I mean, you're not going to use that word too much. It means cast out. You know, we know that much, or chased out, or thrown out, or something like that, right? Okay, let's see how Strong's uses it. Oh, come on. It's stinking apple. Such a problem. Okay. To push off, figuratively to expel, mislead, strike, inflict. Okay. So we got a pretty good idea that outcast means outcasts. Okay. All right. The outcasts of Elam shall all right, and there shall be no nation or heathen nation whither the outcasts of Elam shall not come. So they go to every single nation. As outcasts says, you know, refugees. For I will cause Elam to be dismayed, lose their confidence before their enemies. Do you have a lot of trouble seeing this coming in the next few days, even this week? Shouldn't. and before them that seek their life. Well, we can certainly see that coming. The protesters want to kill him. And I will bring evil upon them. Well, that's happened already. Even my fierce anger, saith Jehovah, and I will send the sword after them till I have consumed them. So they get into the other countries, and then the sword chases them and they get killed. And I will set my throne in Elam. Well, the Lord's not going to be reigning for me in Elam. See, Solomon sat on a throne in a building he called Solomon's Portico near the temple, on the grounds of the temple, you could say, where he would judge the people that needed to be judged. So he sat on a throne while he did the judging. So my point is, it means he's going to judge them. Set my throne means he's going to judge Elam and will destroy from thence the king and the princes, saith Jehovah. So the king and the princes are still left around for a while. But it shall come to pass in the latter days that I will bring again the captivity of Elam, saith Jehovah. Well, that's the Persia in Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38:39. That it comes back as Persia. Okay, and then you get right into chapter 50 of Jeremiah. So it could be that this attack on Iran stirs up a lot of nations against America. The Muslims are going to be scared and mad because this is an attack on the Muslims. I mean, Iran is without a doubt a Muslim state. They will be in a vengeful mood, but what they want is not what they get. There was a car ramming attack in, what was it, LA? Some pro-mullah Muslim guy drove a car or a pickup into a crowd and hurt people. Not going after the Jews this time. Going after people turning against the Islamic regime in Iran. Okay. Let's see if we got questions. I don't know exactly what day or when this will happen, but looks like to me, by the behavior of Netanyahu and Trump and everything, it's any day now. I mean, they're in a hurry. They want it. They know they got to get it done fast, or it keeps getting worse and harder. So they're in the mood to get rid of Iran on an ASAP basis. Okay. I don't know what role Israel's going to have in this. A lot of it might depend on whether or not Iran attacks Israel. You know, Iran sits there to getting attacked by America, and then they got to sit there and figure, well, the way they think is, oh, who do we kill now? they don't know who they're going to go kill. And what is their gain going to be by killing Israel? I mean, maybe they got a better gain focusing on the European Union. I don't know. Um, I don't trust Trump per se, but I'm rather sure Trump is going to go through with this. You see, Trump's underlying problem is what it really is bricks and oil. If the BRICS people get their act together with this one currency, a digital currency, and beat the SWIFT banking system and all that and bypass the sanctions and start trading with some type of a digital currency that they're going to back with gold or whatever, there's going to be a lot of oil traded not in US dollar. The demand for the dollar is going to drop, and the price of it, or the value of the US dollar in the market against other currencies is going to go down, and that's going to keep weakening the country. So the big players in BRICS that will trade the oil off the dollar is the UAE, Iran, and Russia. Now, Saudi Arabia, the UAE is also in BRICS, of course. Saudi Arabia not, but Saudi will trade oil in non-US dollars, but I don't think he takes US dollars either anymore. So, um, uh, Trump's got to make a move. He's got to shut this down. Now, notice what he did with Russia. What he did with Russia is he used his puppet, Ukraine. In the Middle East, Israel is his puppet. He used Ukraine and Ukraine just hit a lot of oil platforms in the oceans that Russia has, so that we can. And I don't spend a lot of time reporting on the Russian-Ukraine war because it's not a prophetic thing of great importance. It could trigger a large war, I agree, but the Bible doesn't frequently talk about one heathen country attacking another heathen country, so I don't. I think the more important thing is to look at the big countries themselves. Okay, so Trump backing out is probably unlikely. He has to get Iran. Sanctions do not work on Iran. They're not working on Russia. They're not working on many other countries either. They're not working on oil. So he has to get the oil. So, he's going after Venezuela, which has the largest oil reserves in the world, more than Iran, more than Saudi Arabia. Huge amount. All right, so Trump can't wait, but he can't jump stupid either because he's got to worry about what are we doing here? Well, they could attack our bases. They could attack, big oil companies like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and UAE and all that. What do we do then? What do they do to hit the bases? And they'll start up with my boy Netanyahu, and they can turn sleeper agents loose. So the Pentagon's got hundreds of people working on this stuff, trying to formulate a plan. all I can tell you is I think we're here, and I think it's also funny in the background we're doing a real tap dance on Hezbollah, and there's been a civil war in Syria. Now that hasn't really calmed down that much. The Kurds have stopped the fighting; they went back to where they are. But there's still civil war stuff going on against Giuliani and other people. And we haven't really been annihilating Gaza, but they can't. Where are they going? They're not going anywhere, right? So we're working on getting rid of Hezbollah avidly and quickly because there's probably a fear in the Israeli military that they might still have had some missiles and they could try doing, launches into Israel. So we just watched this one very carefully. Okay, let's talk about other things that are going on that are on the important side too. Got a single prayer request. Let's cover that. That's important part of things we do here. For HR, Hotel Romeo, HR, Hotel Romeo. The prayer request is for HR to get a job offer on Wednesday. So apparently there's some sort of an interview or final interview for a job. So HR is asking for prayer for a job on Wednesday. So I'll pray. You can agree with me if you like. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for HR to get this job on Wednesday that HR apparently wants. And I do this B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, which means in the name of Yeshua, the Messiah. And you can agree with that if you're a believer. Okay, that's the only prayer request we got today. All right. So I don't think that Trump's going to go in and attack the missile cities first. I could be wrong. Now, Trump may do a large comprehensive attack. You see, for them to move aircraft over to the Middle East theater, number one, we know they already have aircraft around here anyway, all the time. The stuff that they moved to Diego Garcia never went away. Not all of it, apparently. All they got to do to move the aircraft is shut the transponders off, and all the kids tracking it on the radar aren't going to know where they are. So it could already have been done. Remember, you need maybe 24 hours to move a lot of aircraft over here. They put aircraft in Qatar, they'll put them in Jordan, maybe Saudi Arabia, Now, Trump may be willing to go into this thing with, 40 or 50 aircraft, but if it gets heavy, he probably needs no more than 200 or even 100, and they could just be here overnight. He's got plenty in Ramstein, and he's got them in the UK, and, he can pull them in. So what an Iranian was saying, and this is old information, it's not immediate, I'm guessing probably 10 or 15 or 20 hours old or something like that. It says, Look, they have killed more than 5 to 6,000 people just in Tehran. Many were shot in the head. That would be snipers, I guess. In Karatsik, that's a city, I guess. There are 2 hangars full of corpses. Those would be like airplane hangars, big buildings. One of the clients at the all right. What are you moving? Stop moving, you dumb thing. The official figure for the Tehran dead, this is the government of Iran, is fessing up to 1,760, but it's much higher than that. Even that alone is massacre size, okay? And, Trump gave his word, and normally that doesn't mean much. Trump says he'll do a lot of things and never really does them. He never really attacked Venezuela, did he? No. He attacked some boats and stuff like that, that's all. And he sent the special forces in to snatch a guy. Yeah, that's all he's ever done. But here, you see, why is he... What he's trying to do in Venezuela is, without fighting a war, take it over and get control of the oil. And there's also reports that there's minerals in Venezuela, but I don't really want to get into that because it's not that heavily verified. But there's plenty of oil to justify Trump's actions right there. Another report reads like this: based on my conversations with doctors in Tehran, Fars, that's another city, Isfahan, another city, Loristan, another city, Rashi, Sari, and Kiman, all cities or provinces, or whatever, in Iran, as well as reports, photos, and footages, that's video, from eyewitnesses. The estimated death toll of protesters exceeds 5,000. I think we're in the 10 to 20,000 range myself, and I don't think I'm alone like that. So with this kind of death toll, Trump's immediate goal would have to be to get the killing of the protesters to stop. Blowing up the missile cities or nuclear facilities or ports or piers or oil refineries is likely to have the opposite effect. It's not going to get them to stop. Attacking the IRGC is the only sane way, because you may get the IRGC to just say this is garbage, we're not doing it, and just say they're not doing it, and they're gonna take over the city as soon as Trump says, as soon as the Khomeini keeps telling the IRGC, don't pay attention to you getting bombed and your arms and legs getting blown off, get out there. And they could turn against him. So that's really his best move, I think. Now, if he's really going to go gung-ho, then he's going to, in addition, hit the missile cities. Okay? But we'll have to see. In addition, he may take out the Iranian boats that they'll use to shut the Persian Gulf. you know, remember, a B-2 bomber can go 6,000 miles without refueling. And if you're going to refuel it, it could go even further, I think. They give the pilots anti-fatigue pills, which is some sort of speed, a mild time-release speed pill. I think they can keep them jacked up for, I think about 30, 36 hours, and then they're no good anymore. I heard another report, maybe 24 hours or 23, long enough, you know. Now, if they're in Diego Garcia, that's not any great big long distance to Iran. Piece of cake for them to fly to Iran, drop the load, and go back to Diego Garcia. They might need a partial refueling on the way back, but maybe not even. It might be close, so on the way back they'll get, maybe a 30, 40% refueling to give them a good margin. Because I think they could pretty much go back and forth on 6,000, but they don't want them coming in on fumes, There were B-52s running around on Diego Garcia. But the B-52 would be a tool that they would have to introduce after the radar and the anti-missile system, the anti-aircraft systems were taken out, because it's rather not well defended by itself. Okay, and it's not stealthy at all. Trump tells Cuba to make a deal before it's too late. Well, I don't know what Cuba's going to do. Now, I was talking about Elon Musk put Starlink in to Iran, and is this true? Yes. Is it illegal in Iran to subscribe to Starlink? Yes, it is. What is the penalty? I don't have a clue. Before all these protests, they weren't really enforcing it, apparently. Now, what they're doing is they're jamming Starlink with military-grade jamming equipment. Okay? So Starlink's not working, and if to send video and pictures not well, it means some of it's getting out, apparently. Now, are they going after satellite phones or just Starlink? Well, they're not the same thing, but you can take a satellite phone, have an adapter, plug it into a laptop, and then you could send pictures and videos and do whatever you want. The cost of the time, with the minutes you use is very high, but at this point, these people don't care. I mean, people behind the movement don't care if they get a $20,000, satellite bill. It's life or death, Now, they may have just gone after Starlink with their jamming, because that's one frequency that I believe is not anywhere near the same as the satellite phones. So the satellite phone people may be able to get stuff out. I'm unsure what else is going on, Other things that could happen is they could go by borders of other countries and physically move video, and they can't stop you from taking your phone out and filming the video. Broadcasting it or sending it to somebody, they could stop. But the people could take their phone and get in a car and drive by a border of another country where they might be able to pick up a internet signal and have somebody buy chips from, that phone company in the nearby country and then use it that way. I don't know. Gaza was doing that with Egypt. So I know it does go on. It is a tactic. So the amount of videos has been reduced tremendously, and that's when the death toll went up. Iran doesn't want the whole world to know, and they're giving Islam a very bad name, which is good. Not that good, but you know. Okay, one of these UK politicians by the name, a minister by the name of Heidi Alexander, calls for an end to violence, while the Tory party leader says she would not have an issue with regime change. Okay, so the British are saying that they're telling Trump essentially, you know, a good idea right now would be to kill Khomeini. How effective do I think that would be? You know, we saw this when we killed the head of Hezbollah. It didn't, it helped, but it didn't do everything. So what do I think it'll do here in Iran? It'll help, but I don't think it'll do everything. It's definitely going to help. Is it going to end the war? Man, I don't think so. The British Defense Minister, John Healey, I think this is a different person. This is what he said. If I could kidnap one leader among the world's leaders, I would take Russian President Putin into custody. So he's saying we got to get Putin. But Great Britain is starting to play the same king of the world game that Trump is playing, you know, which is not a comforting thought. Who put Trump in control? Nobody I know. Who put this British guy in control? Nobody I know either, you know. Now, this is something Trump said that's, I would say, makes me wonder if he's really going to do anything in Iran. I always have to wonder that with Trump. A quote from Trump: Marco Rubio will be president of Cuba. Okay, do any of you really think that's a sound thing for Trump to say? Okay, this is really dirty dog practices of Iran. Listen to this one. Iranian opposition sources, those are the protesters, the good guys, the white hats, if you will, report that the regime's security forces have taken control of all the hospitals in Tehran. And anyone who arrives with a gunshot wound is taken straight into custody without the possibility of receiving medical treatment, based on the assumption that they were shot and injured by Iranian security forces. So the wounded that haven't died at the scene when they got shot by snipers working for the mullahs, they got police in the hospital and they grab them and put them into custody while they're bleeding out. They don't want them getting treated. In other words, they're trying to kill them and they don't want them surviving. So it's going to be rather difficult for Trump to just do nothing or do some idiot thing like put more sanctions on Iran, you know? It's ridiculous. What about Trump closing the Persian Gulf and only letting ships in for friendly countries, not Iran? It's a theory, but Iran could really dish it out with all those go-fast boats they got, 1,500. I don't think Trump's going to go down that road. I don't think so. It's not going to stop killing the protesters. See, how many more days does Iran need to kill the protesters to stop this? I don't know. 2, 3, 4. Not a long time. Not the way they're racking up the numbers. So we shot 6 Hezbollah tunnels with 25 missiles yesterday. So they got tunnels too. We're hearing reports now that over 10,000 have been arrested. Well, detained. You know, I don't know what the difference is between detained and arrested in Iran, you know, but being detained by the Iranian authorities is, in a time like this, I'd say it's pretty, you know, torturous. This is a wild one here. I don't get this one myself, but here you go. Germany's interior minister, that's an important post, and Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are scheduled to sign a declaration in Jerusalem on cooperation and on security and on cybersecurity and the fight against anti-Semitism. I guess Germany's buying a lot of weapons from Israel. They bought, I don't know, $5 or $6 billion worth in the last 2 or 3 months. So I guess they need help somewhere. And Netanyahu's saying, yeah, well, you're a good customer. We'll give you some customer support and help you. That's best I get out of that. This agreement with Germany is official. It's been approved by the people that approve such things. The members of the Iranian parliament, listen to this, dedicated this week, that's this current week we're in right now, opening morning session today to chants of death to America, death to America. That's a very creative, okay? That's their parliament, their Congress, opened up by doing that. You know, that says something, doesn't it? Come on, of course it does. Trump saying U.S. companies are now going to have access to Venezuela's vast oil reserves, but the country's other commodities have already caught the administration attention. Minerals. Venezuela has unverified amount of minerals, so we don't know how much they got. Minerals, metals, and potential rare earth elements. Experts say these raw materials are indispensable for industries from defense to technology. And the administration has repeatedly stressed their importance for U.S. national security. So this is probably got something to do with less dependence on China. So again, I'm saying they don't expect, the word we're getting in Israel is don't expect Israel to strike first. Israel's going to want this to be Trump's main show, so he's not fighting Iran by himself. And I think Trump and Netanyahu are both in agreement on this. So, Trump is saying the U.S. military is looking at very strong options on Iran amid because of the protester deaths. Now, Trump said something very smart. He's going to talk to Elon Musk about getting the Starlink fully operational and not knocked out in part or in whole. If that happens, and can Musk do this? Well, you got to say Musk is probably not normally in a wartime mode where he's trying to keep the system running against military jamming, but I think he could adapt rather quickly to it, and he possibly could get it up and running really quick. According to the federal chair, the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, Jerome Powell, the Justice Department has subpoenaed the Federal Reserve Bank and they're mad because the Federal Reserve Bank is not literally part of the government. It's a private entity owned by people that they won't tell you who owns it. And Trump may have subpoenaed them to see who owns it, you know. The threat of criminal charges for a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public rather than following the preferences of the president, Powell says in a statement. So Trump's trying to lock them up. Well, somebody should, but I don't know if Trump's capable of doing that. But yeah, they should get locked up. It's a fraud. It's a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a cock and bull story. It's a horrible system. Somebody will say, "Well, it's better than communism." Well, yeah, that's like saying, "Oh, the flu's better than bubonic plague." No, you should elevate your sights and get honest leaders that don't have a secret agenda with Satan. This is another statement by Trump. There's been so many. Iran is starting to cross my red line. It seems there are people who were killed who shouldn't have been killed. We are taking this very seriously. I receive updates every hour about Iran. We are considering very strong options on this matter. I remind you that just launching missiles from Iran to Israel isn't going to, I don't think they could hit, not Israel, America. I don't think they could hit America. But they have these boats that can launch missiles that look like merchant marine vessels, and they could launch drones, and they could approach America discreetly and attack America, get attacks in. And that could lead to Revelation 18, Washington, D.C. getting destroyed. That it could be. I'm just offering it to you. Am I telling you this is for sure what's going to happen? Well, no, but it could happen. A reporter asked Trump if his administration, Trump administration, is in contact with the leaders of the Iranian opposition as things are happening. Trump said yes. That's all he said. Well, okay, he wants to keep the intel down. That's fine. Reporter then says, "What is the message to them?" Trump said, we will find out pretty soon. No, that's him saying you're going to see what I'm going to do real quick. So we've been doing 3 types of attacks in Lebanon: airstrikes with fighter jets on Hezbollah infrastructure in southern Lebanon, and in the area of the Bekaa Valley area, Al-Bekaa, whatever. Fighter jets have also attacked residential compounds, which would be operating centers, command centers in reality, after an evacuation warning for this village of Hata or something near Sidon. So it's a cluster of these Hezbollah murdering terrorists living around there. They're attacking. Fighter jets attacked. I covered that. And UAV drone attacks on a vehicle were also done. And we're hearing people report that Israeli drone attacked a vehicle in the Masaka neighborhood, wherever in the world that is. It was in southern Lebanon. A statement coming from the IRGC, that's the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps, says Trump, in coordination with Israel, has armed and directed the terrorist elements, the citizens seeking their freedom, on the streets of Iran, and threatens retaliation. Now, this is fascinating to me, and I think a lot of you. This is different now. We're switching to money, precious metals. The Singapore silver price in recent hours hit $92 and change. That's the Singapore. Now, when you go around the world, the price for gold, silver, palladium, rhodium, and stuff, it's different in different markets. It's usually about a few bucks, not a big deal. So it did get up. Now, a while ago, I checked this morning, the price of silver on the American exchange was $83.59, and gold was $4,576. So they're both performing, and holding quite well. And this thing with Venezuela, and this thing with Cuba, and this thing with Colombia, and this thing with Iran has not really gotten going. When it gets going, I don't know what we should be looking at with gold and silver anymore. It's so high. I mean, to say silver's going to cap out at 150, it could be an understatement. I mean, it might cap out at 250. I don't know anymore. Something I don't think anybody knows anymore. I mean, poof, gold will hit 5,000. It's not going to take much to get gold to go up $425 when you're talking about Iran and oil and war and Venezuela and all that, boom, you're at $5,000, and then it's going to go higher yet. That's nuts. It's basically it's destroyed the jewelry industry. Okay, a woman wants to get a wedding ring, which is a thin little ring that just grips a diamond. Okay. So if you go out and buy a natural diamond or you buy a lab-grown diamond, is it the same thing? Yeah. Yeah, they found a way to detect natural over regular diamonds. It's a machine, and you got to put the jewelry in it, and it takes a half a minute or a minute to get to the bottom of it. And the jewelers, which are really horrible people, they've been taking advantage of people all around the world with with exceptionally high markups. Um, they're um, they're trying to hold the gold market up, and it's not going to hold up. It's garbage. And the next thing they're trying to do, because these are really bad people, okay? Let me explain what I mean. Let's say a supermarket, for a pound of peaches, the supermarket pays 99 cents. If the jewelers owned the supermarket, they would sell you those peaches for $5.99. The supermarket probably sell it to you for $1.39, $1.49, or something like that, right? They're horrible people. They're scammers. They're con men. Okay, that's all they are. They're terrible. It's a terrible industry what they've done. They sell people garbage. Just like you go back and you got some kind of ring with a small diamond and you want to sell it back to them. What they do is they weigh it and they'll give you the price for the gold or the platinum, whatever you got the ring made of. They don't even want to bother buying the stone. They'll just knock it out and hand it back to you. You know, they won't even give you $5 for it because they might be able to buy one for $2. You know, they don't want any of your diamonds, okay? They'll give you, you know, if you go in and let's say you got a 2-carat ring and you got a medium grade diamond, you know, and they originally sold it to you for $2,900, what will the guy give you? $100 for the stone? Yeah, 200, something like that. He's not going to give you anything because he doesn't need it. And he doesn't want to carry it in inventory. So what he'll do is try to steal it from you. Maybe the $2,900 stone costs him $400 or $500. If it costs him $400 or $500, he'd probably try to give you $75. It doesn't, and then he could unload it, quicker. But he'd rather just buy the precious metal from you because he just builds. People come in, even their thin little, gold and platinum and silver. He buys it and then he builds up a big bag of the scrap, and then he has a guy melt it, make it into bars, or he sells it to some company that does that. So he knows he's got a guaranteed profit there, but he doesn't, so they just sell you junk. And you go to the mall and you see these big jewelry stores, you go in there, they're all well dressed, and they've got beautiful display cases with great lighting to make the stones glimmer and glisten, and they're just crooks. I would think that the Beers family's got warehouses where they could take 40-foot containers of diamonds and fill at least 3 or 4 of those containers up, if not 10 of them. And now they're becoming worthless. So what they're trying to do is now they're trying to elevate the price of the synthetic lab-grown diamonds to about half what the natural diamonds are. That's a scam and a fraud all over again. It should be about 1/10 of the price. But it will be. More and more people are going to buy the machines to make it, and they're just going to keep bringing it down. And the Beers family can go fly a kite. But what's happening, and this is no fault of the jewelers, is that the people can't even afford to buy. I mean, a little thin wedding band, that has what, 1/8 of an ounce of, gold in it. They could manage that. Let's see, what the typical weight of a wedding band is. Hold on. I told it to check and see what the typical weight is without the stone in it. Um, so it typically, let's just say it's about 2 grams. Uh, no, it could be, well, that's in platinum. Um, I think the ounces that they use to price gold are a little different, but it should be 16 grams to an ounce. No, I got that wrong. I was thinking of ounces to a pound. Sorry. Um, no, for the gold, I think it's 31 grams. So 31 and change. I'll just use 31. What? I gotta do this again and I get a clear answer. 4,500, let's just keep it simple. Divide by 31 equals 145, and then you multiply it by 2 or 3 ounces. So you got $300 to $450, but they're using 14 karat gold probably. So you got about $250 in gold. So they could keep selling women's diamond rings and get away with that, But if you're talking about a large man's ring with a piece of, onyx or jade or something like that in 14 karat, you're probably looking at $2,000 or $3,000 worth of gold. So what you're going to see very shortly, listen to this, what the 2 karat diamond, the size of that in gold, the gold would cost more than the 2 karat diamond. Very soon, we might almost be there. So these crooked, stinking jewelers are fighting like crazy to make people think that a lab-grown diamond is half the price of a natural diamond. No, no. The cost on it is about a tenth, maybe less than a tenth. I'll be right back. the funny part of the story is the guy that's selling the synthetic diamond or the lab-grown diamond detecting machines is getting, for the good ones, $8,000. I'll bet it doesn't cost them more than $300-400 to make the machine. So anybody in the business of buying diamonds pretty much needs to get this machine. If you buy a red diamond, a natural red diamond of about 2 carats, it costs $1 million, roughly. You could get a synthetic version of that made. It probably costs them $1,000 or something to make it. They're trying to sell like a 2 carat red lab grown, to something like $40,000. So you could go get yourself a ring with a 2 carat red stone in it with their crazy pricing. And you're probably going to have to make it big and, probably put about $5,000 of gold in it. You could go to run around with something for $45,000 that's going to look like it's $2 million. They could put it in a loop. They could put it in a loop, magnifying glass, a microscope, and you won't know. The guy has to have that machine. Now, I don't know if that machine's perfect or not. I think it does something based on heat. I think they found out that the synthetic lab-grown diamonds retain heat differently than the natural. So you probably put your jewelry in the machine and it puts heat on it, or it's maybe X-ray. I don't know what the heck they're doing, but so if you're a rapper or some entertainer, and you want to get one of those big medallions like that to hang off your neck. A few years ago, when gold was $1,600, it was expensive enough. Okay. You probably had, with the chain and everything, at least 2 pounds of gold. Probably 3. Now the gold itself is expensive. But they put small diamonds all around the chain, and they put it on the medallion. So the guys would be using moissanite in the past, which is rather costly back then, but now it's very cheap. It probably cost him $3, $4, $5,000 to have the moissanite chips put in there and stuff like that. So when you're up on a stage and the lights are hitting you, it's going to glare and glimmer. It's going to look like real diamonds. How are you going to know the difference? Jeweler's not going to open his mouth, then he won't have any celebrity clients. They make artificial lab-grown anything now. The last one, I think, to come in is Imperial Jade. Thanks mostly to the Orientals, the finest grade imperial in a man's ring, they usually set it in 22 to 24 karat gold. A flat piece, the size for a man's ring. A really, really good one could be, $250 to $3 million, $4 million, And they're just starting to make imperial jade in a lab. So they're actually starting to generate pieces of it. So they're going to wreck the market for imperial jade. See, the thing is, these lab-grown stones are real. The natural out in the wild takes a lot longer to make. That's the big difference. The lab diamonds, I think, take some weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months or something. After you grow the thing, then you have to have it cut and you have to have it polished. So you got to use the jewelry industry, unless they're going to come up with machines using artificial intelligence to cut it, which I think they could easily do. And then polish it. And then you need a setter. So you need a diamond cutter, a polisher, and a setter to set it in whatever you're trying to do with it. Put it in a ring or something, in a bracelet or a necklace or something like that. Earrings. One of the kids I grew up with in my neighborhood in the Bronx, his parents were in the jewelry business, and they got him a job as a diamond setter. I always used to say, "Oh, you're a diamond cutter." He'd always say, No, I'm a setter. I'm not a cutter." I think the cutter can make more money, but maybe the cutters don't make a lot. I don't know. It's such a fraudulent industry, makes the car dealers look nice. Makes Las Vegas, it's like Las Vegas. It's almost as bad as Las Vegas, They don't cheat. They don't sell you phony goods. They won't do that. Because they go to jail, you know. One bad thing about Iran biting the dust is they do a lot with pistachio nuts. So maybe you'll have a lot of trouble buying pistachio ice cream after it's gone. You'll adjust. When it goes, I'm rather sure it'll bring about the destruction of Yemen, which is Edom in the Bible. That's also in Jeremiah 49. And the daughter of Babylon in America. I think this will be the chain reaction. So I'm watching this avidly. And we'll see. Is there a possibility that this whole thing with Iran could calm down, settle down? Nah, it's way too far gone. I doubt that'll ever happen. Something's going to change. All right. I'll get a prayer out for us. My Heavenly Father, Jehovah, I pray for me and my wife and all the true believers and their households and families. I pray that we would all be happy, healthy, and whole, and safe and secure, and our animals and pets would be safe and secure and happy, healthy, and whole. And I pray we would have your healing and recuperative power flowing through our bodies, that everything that needs to be healed will be getting healed every day. And I pray we have strength, stamina, and endurance, and we don't get depressed or bummed out or lose, or we don't start thinking poorly or anything like that. We keep our reasoning and logic and don't get taken in by all these sights around the world and all the bad stuff that's happening. And I pray we have no accidents, no tickets, no breakdowns, no getting stopped, stuck, or stranded with any car or vehicle or any transportation device. And if traveling, we don't have reservations canceled or get stuck or stranded or get deceived or ripped off. And I pray we don't get discriminated against in any way, shape, or form from any business or government or people. And I pray we don't get robbed, scammed, frauded, ripped off. And I pray all our packages and deliveries come on time and intact. And I pray we walk with you, my Heavenly Father, and we have the gifts of the Spirit, because you pour your Spirit out on us. And if we need customers or clients, we have what's needed and then some extra. And I pray that if we need a job, we get a job. And I pray that if we need money, well, I pray that you provide us with adequate money and then some. And I pray for all our health to be restored. And I pray we learn more about the Bible. And I pray that I do better videos. And I pray for the peace of Jerusalem. B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Take this seriously, guys. This is a really big end times event. Yeah, the church doesn't talk about it. It's in Jeremiah 49. Edom is Yemen. It's also called Taman, which means the south in Hebrew, but it's Edom. They get busted up so bad they don't exist anymore. And nobody ever lives there again. And that country is a great ally of Iran, and they're definitely going to help Iran in a fight. Iraq will definitely help them. And they go. and Iran goes, and parts of Syria can likely go. Some people believe Syria is part of Elam. The Babylonian Empire, which is basically kind of Iraq, would occupy parts of Elam, well, Syria and Iran would, well, the Elam and Iran would occupy parts of, Iraq at other times, and Syria, well, not so much Syria. So it was a weird thing, so it could be part of it. Historians have not agreed across the board on this, but I think it's probably included because Iraq has a severe drought along with Iran at the same time. But maybe not. Okay, so we need to watch this one carefully because it could be starting any minute and cascade right into redemption. So we don't know. We don't know yet. Okay, so let's stay on top of this. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I hope you got something out of this. And amen.